This is the Amp Hour podcast, recorded February 6th, 2012. Episode 81. Jersey Jeff Jactitation. Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And this is Jeff Keyzer from MightyOhm.com.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Dave.
Long time no hear.
I know, it's been a while. Well, yeah. I guess it hasn't been that long. We talked in December, right? I guess it has been. It's been a few weeks.
Right. Okay.
Time flies.
Is that really that early? I thought it was much longer ago than that.
No, we did that. We did that like kind of holiday-ish episode in December, and we talked about all the things we wanted.
Oh, jeez, that would seem like
it's like ancient history. Yeah,
right,
that's right.
Yeah,
Time flies.
Yes, and Chris is not here, of course, so there's no adult supervision today.
and I mean, it's public knowledge that where Chris is, right? It's not hush hush.
No, it's not. No, it's not hush hush. He's on his honeymoon. He's in Hawaii.
I think he's on Maui.
Islands?
I think he's on Maui.
Is he sending tweet updates, is he? Or?
We've been, it's funny, we've been emailing back and forth, and I emailed him last week, and I said, hey, Chris, when are you leaving on your honeymoon? And he sends me back, and he says, oh, yeah, I'm leaving on Friday morning, but, I'll have full email access and everything, so if you need to contact me, I'd love to, email you. And I was thinking, come on, man, you got to just turn it off. You got to just go away.
well, he did a whole blog post on this about how the big decision was not taking a notebook with him. That was, he seems so proud of himself that he was going to do it without a notebook.
So he's probably sitting on a beach somewhere, painstakingly keying in emails on his smartphone. Thinking, God damn it, why didn't I just bring my laptop?
On his pasty white nerdy skin there on the the beaches of Maui, which have Australian sand. So he's no doubt sitting on Australian sand imported from Australia.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
There you go. I'm sure we've mentioned it on here before, as we like to do about anything Australia gets the one up on the Yanks. And the beaches of Maui, the famous beaches of Hawaii, and some of the islands there, some of the beaches, they import the sand from Australia, north of Sydney here, Newcastle perhaps.
Wow.
So, yep. Yeah.
So it must be good.
Absolutely.
It's Australian sand.
We make good stuff with the world's best beaches here. So.
I have heard that before.
Yep.
Well, I guess I hope Chris enjoys his honeymoon. Hello, Chris, although he shouldn't be listening. So, Chris,
right.
If you're listening, turn off the podcast.
Oh, boy.
You're failing at your honeymoon.
When I went on my honeymoon, we didn't have... it was only like 6-7 years ago now, but, we didn't have smartphones back then. It was kind of, and you didn't bother taking your notebook, of course. That was ridiculous. You might occasionally try and find an internet connection somewhere to send an email update to your friends and family, about what you're doing. But apart from that, it was about
it's getting to the point now where I rarely leave the house without my laptop, and it's even if I'm going someplace in town, or if I'm if I'm traveling, I always bring my laptop.
Of course, but
I tend to pack one anytime I'm leaving the house now, because most areas have Wi-Fi coverage, and especially if I'm traveling for any reason, having a laptop is such a nice asset, because you can look up things to do, you can check hotel reservations.
Isn't a tablet better for that these days?
I'm probably
in terms
kind
of form factor and just for traveling.
I guess I don't know. Right. I like having a real keyboard, and it's funny.
Yeah,
I was an early adopter of the iPhone, and people gave me a lot of shit because it didn't have a keyboard, and there's probably people who are still upset about that.
Yeah, but you can get like a Bluetooth, one of those fold-out pocket Bluetooth.
That's
keyboards,
right,
can't you?
Yeah, I've seen those, and I'm not interested. I like being able to have it in my pocket. But if I have a computer, I really want a keyboard, and I want the ability to run my own applications and stuff. So you won't find me with any tablets probably.
So is this a real notebook, or is it one of these netbooks?
It's kind of it's kind of in between. I actually, so it's funny. The trip that I just got back from, I actually had to bring my 2006 vintage MacBook, which weighs like 8 pounds. It's this hulk of a computer, and I realized how good I have it now because I usually travel with a Toshiba that only weighs about 3 pounds, and it's a great little travel. Yeah, it's
1.3 kilos, or something.
It's a netbook sized computer, but it actually has a real decent processor and it's got real memory and all this. And, it's funny, I've been kind of shopping because I recently, with all the traveling I've been doing last year, I actually cracked the cover of the laptop that I usually travel with, the Toshiba, and I had to send it back to Toshiba, and of course it wasn't in warranty. They don't cover things like that, and it was like $200 to get it fixed. And I was thinking to myself, Apple, for all the negatives that people throw around about Apple, they make darn good laptops. And
I've
in
never
particular,
used one, so.
It's funny. I've gone back and forth, and I've kind of jumped around between platforms. And the MacBook that I've got, the old one, is pretty much indestructible. I've dropped it 3 feet onto a hard surface, and it's fine. But this Toshiba is kind of falling apart after only using it for, it's actually just a little under a year now.
Right.
And I started looking at some of the netbooks that are out there, like the Apple, the Air. And the problem with them is the storage. The storage is still like, you get 128 gigs of
Why
storage.
do you need so much storage on a machine that you're carrying around for travel?
It's because I keep all of my design files with me, and I also keep all my data sheets and all my reference libraries and all that stuff. And that takes up a fair amount of space.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
I guess I could probably do without a lot of it, but I just can't seem to get under, I don't know, 200 or 300 gigs. It's you get a few videos on there, you get your MP3s, and you're up to 300 gigs in no time.
Yep.
So I'm waiting for the netbooks to catch up on storage, but I would love to have a MacBook Air. I like the form factor, and I like the fact that there's nothing to break off.
Right.
There's nothing hanging off or anything that looks like it's fragile.
Yep.
But yeah, anyway, I like to travel fairly light, but I will almost always bring a laptop just because I can't really live without one at this point.
Right. Got it. So where have you been traveling this last month?
Oh, gosh.
Said you've been
I have been traveling so much.
Everywhere to Timbuktu and back.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to do so much traveling in January, but so first of all, after we talked on the last show, just a week or two later, I went out to Germany again for the second time last year.
You mentioned that.
Yeah, so I went to the 28C3 conference, which is kind of a hacker conference, I guess. It's run by the same guys that did the camp that I went to in the summer in outside of Berlin. This was actually in Berlin, and again, I was doing Geiger counter workshops, and that kit just has a mind of its own at this point. It's I feel kind of like the kit drags me along to these things now. It's really funny because I found myself in Berlin on New Year's, and it was like, how did I end up here? Yeah, thanks to the Geiger counter, here I am. So I did New Year's in Berlin, which was just amazing. Awesome. It's funny, in the U.S., they don't really let you buy fireworks of the kind that go up in the air and, create big explosions.
They're totally banned here in Australia.
Okay, so imagine...
you have to have a license. Yep.
Imagine that, but anyone on the street can go into the convenience store on their corner and buy those.
Yep, that's how. So
just imagine what that's like.
Back in the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. So Berlin, for as calm and collected as you imagine Germans being most of the time, Berlin erupts into total chaos around New Year's, and just having survived that and not getting hit in the head with a bottle or a firework or anything, I still have all my fingers. It was kind of an amazing experience. But it's interesting. I had a great time, but. For me, actually, the highlight of that trip is I got back into the East Coast a few days later, and I happened to spend a few days in New Jersey. And I just did a blog post about this today. I had a chance to visit the Thomas Edison National Historical Park, which is awesome. So this is a laboratory complex in West Orange, New Jersey, which is kind of northern New Jersey. And this is not where Edison invented the light bulb, sadly. That lab actually,
well,
I think...
technically he didn't invent it, but...
we're not even going to get into that.
Let's not get into that.
No. So this...
He was a
this
brilliant
is where
experimentalist. He was,
He was. Edison did a lot of, I think, really amazing things. And the laboratory complex that's in West Orange is where he kind of created one of the first research campuses in the United States. So it was this huge, sprawling complex. And I took some photos and went on a tour. And I got to say, for people who haven't seen this and maybe are in on the East Coast, or maybe, it's not too far from New York City. So if you were in New York, it's not that, I don't know how you get there, but, right. Public transportation in this country isn't the greatest, but find a way to get there somehow. But it is an amazing museum, and there's a lot of really interesting artifacts there. But for me, the highlight is there's a machine shop that is breathtaking, just absolutely amazing.
Is it like a recreation, or has it got some?
No, this is the real deal. It's got all of the original stuff.
Because he used to famously had one of 10 of every single substance and every single element in a million glass jars, and that's how he did his experimentation. He just tried everything,
So that's here. So there's a storeroom,
awesome.
And in the storeroom they've got elephant tusks and hides and tortoise shells, and I guess the famous saying is that there's everything from whatever to the eyeballs of a U.S. senator.
Right.
and I don't know that that's actually true, but if you look at this place, it's just shelves and shelves and shelves of stuff, and there's a lot of natural materials, because that's kind of how they did experiments back then. Is they'd look for some natural material that they could turn into something else or use for some purpose. So they had to have a library of this. And Edison, you're exactly right. He was really proud of having this huge collection of stuff.
Wow. I didn't know this still existed. I've actually read his autobiography. Well, not his autobiography, but one of his biographies. It shows photos of this and talks about it. And I didn't know it was still around.
Yeah, it is.
And visit it.
You can, and it's the Thomas Edison National Historical Park, and it actually includes a laboratory complex as well as the mansion where Edison lived. I think up until the time of his death, he lived in a mansion called Glenmont, which is just a short distance away. And the amazing thing is that this laboratory complex has gone through, I think, multiple restorations, and I think the most recent was in 2009, and it is immaculate. I mean, it is truly breathtaking. Everything's in pristine condition.
Oh, I'd love to. Now you're making me jealous.
So it's like a time capsule, and like the machine shop is one of these types that's got the huge motors in the back, and then there's leather belts strewn everywhere throughout the building, just waiting to grab your hand or arm or hair or something, and going to all the machines. And I walked into this, and I seriously, just my jaw dropped. It was the most amazing thing I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
And so I took a few pictures of it, and I put them up on Flickr, and I've also, today I'm kind of behind. I started trying to catch up the blog. I've done so much traveling recently that it's really cramped my ability to write blog posts at the rates that I'd like to, but I finally wrote up something about it.
Why have you been traveling? Is this just because you want to?
Well,
This is off your own dime, isn't it? This is, as you say in the US,
it's
off
actually,
your own dime?
It's partially that, but it's also partially because of the Geiger counter workshop I did at 28C3. I could actually afford to go back to Europe again last year. And so this is just something I tacked on to that trip. It turns out that if you come back from Germany, you have to go through the East Coast to get to Austin, Texas. And so it didn't cost me anything to stay a few days. I've got some family out there.
Right.
So, I've been doing a mix of kind of business traveling for these workshops, but then also trying to get some fun stuff in. And, I enjoy traveling a lot. And, doing what I do, I have a fairly flexible schedule. And I I don't usually take advantage of that. And so finally this month I said, you know what, I'm just going to take some time. And and that actually gets into my most recent trip that I just got back from last week. You remember, you've been to Apex Electronics, right?
Yes, I have.
In Los Angeles. Well, I went back last week to visit a friend of mine that lives in LA, and we went on what we entitled Surplus Summit 2012.
Oh, brilliant. Do tell.
And we visited not only the TRW swap meet, which takes place on, I believe it's the last Saturday of every month. This is run by the guys that were from the W6 TRW Amateur Radio Club, which was associated with TRW, which is now Northrop Grumman. They have a ham radio swap meet. I actually flew out to LA just to go to this. This is the kind of this is kind of the level I'm at with these things. So my good friend Tony, he invited me out, and so we actually did the swap meet on Saturday, and also we visited a few of the surplus shops that are in Southern California, and I think I went to something like 6 or 7 different surplus electronic shops, 3 of them in LA, and then the rest in San Diego. So I did this whole LA San Diego trip.
How do they compare with the if the Apex one, for example?
Well,
they're all big, or
they're all different.
Right.
So the 3 places I visited in LA were Apex, which you know what that's like.
Yep.
CNH. So CNH Surplus is in Duarte, which is kind of on the eastern side of LA.
Right.
It's smaller, but I would say more curated. So you get only the most interesting junk.
Right.
Apex is kind of a lot of everything, and it's just a big pile.
Dump.
Yeah, it is. And you know your fingers get dirty rummaging through stuff. CNH is more test equipment that might have a possibility of actually working.
Right.
You know, just interesting little doodads. I picked up a couple radioactive gauges from aircraft as I was just browsing through what they had there. And then we also went to All Electronics, which is a catalog supplier in the U.S.
Yes. Yeah,
I don't think very many people know that they have a retail store. But they actually have a retail store in Van Nuys, which is northern... Probably my knowledge of LA geography is not great, but it's kind of in the northern part of LA. And they have more, I don't know, components, I guess. CNH is more kind of stuff, industrial stuff,
gear,
like
industrial
gear.
Gear.
Yeah. And then Apex is just everything.
Junk.
It's hard to even describe.
Exactly.
So, it's funny. I've been visiting surplus stores for a long time, and I've kind of gotten into this thing where if I'm ever traveling, I try to visit the surplus shops in the area.
Got it. You seek them out.
and it's funny because as I've done this, I've become the first thing I do is walk in and just say hi to the owner. And these guys tend to be pretty interesting people. You have to be a little bit of a nut to run a surplus electronic shop.
For sure. You've got to be a character.
You do. And so it's fun to talk to these guys and, why did they do this and how did they end up here? And of course, all of them tell you that, eBay is killing us and we're not going to be around for very long. And so what I try to do is visit these places, and then I've got a wiki page where I try to list as many of them as I can. And I try to keep kind of a directory because people need to shop at these places or they're going to go away, right?
Yep.
So I try to get the word out about them. Yep. And so I had a great time while I was in Southern California, just going from place to place, and I had some time to kill. And for me, this was kind of a vacation, to go out and look at this stuff. And I was on my own, so I didn't have the wife to get tired of me rummaging around in components. And
that's what I had. I had like all of 30 minutes at Apex Electronics. She was holding the camera. No, that is not enough. Yeah, with a grouchy look on her face, and that's all I had is the one run through, and that was. Come on, we're going now.
It might be kind of a weird, sick fascination I have, but I get such a kick out of looking at old equipment and looking at
same here. It's great.
Old stuff. It's just, because you see, not only do you have this, interesting power supply or multimeter or whatever, But a lot of these have, logos of companies that are long gone, right?
Long gone, yeah.
And you think about the engineers that worked on this stuff, and you kind of wonder.
They must have a huge history with 1,000 stories to tell, each one of them,
that's right. Yep, and now it's just sitting in some...
disappear. Yeah, they
that's
just
right.
vanish. Poof. Amazing.
Yeah, it is. But, so I guess... I'm finally home, but it was
for how long?
I'm actually here.
The wife lets
for
you
2
do
weeks.
this. Is she okay with this?
She is, and she
do you
actually
pay her off. Do you give her the credit card and say, "Here, dear, go"?
No. It doesn't take that. She actually travels a bit for her job, and so a lot of the time it would just be me sitting at home alone. So it's like, well, why not just go and do something fun?
Yep.
But she's entirely supportive, and in fact, I have brought her along to some of these things. She used to come with me to the Silicon Valley flea market, and she gets a kick out of it too, just because she kind of sees how I'm actually fairly normal compared to
compared to some freaks out there,
compared to some of the people that frequent these things. But I love it. It's really great. And I gotta say, one last thing about the San Diego portion of that trip. I visited my alma mater. I went to UCSD, the University of California, San Diego, and I had not been back to my university in a long time. I mean, probably 6 years at least.
Yep.
And how things changed.
Really? In 6 years? Do tell.
It is. UCSD saw, I think, a big influx in money after I graduated. And the number of new buildings on campus is just absolutely amazing. So I go back to, where I used to live, and it's almost unrecognizable.
Wow.
Vastly different.
In 6 years?
In 6 years, yeah. Yeah, they've seen a huge amount of development over the past few years. And it's funny, we used to think of UCSD as being kind of a more modest university, not very flashy, not very, the facilities, especially the freshman dormitories were not particularly good.
God.
No offense.
Yeah.
But now it's funny, you go back and you think, oh, wow, when I was a boy.
Why? Yeah, 6 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah, things change. But the funny thing is, I went to the where the engineering buildings are, the engineering, they're all kind of in the same area at UCSD, and the student chapter of the IEEE had set up a tent, and they were trying to recruit students. And so I was there, and I had my Geiger counter, of course, because I bring it everywhere.
Hang on. How do you recruit students? I mean, are there so... Actually, the answer... I already know the answer to my question, and it's yes. But do so many people just wander onto campus? Right, I'm out of high school. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wander from tent to tent, and whoever gives me the best, spiel, I'm going to join. I'm going to do that course. Is that are there that many undecided people?
No, see,
this was these sort of tents work.
This was the IEEE, so the Institute for Electronics and Electrical Engineers.
Oh, right, getting them to join the society.
So they want them to join the student chapter of the society.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And actually, I got to say, the way that they do it is free drinks and free food, which I think are a successful recipe to recruit students for anything. Having been a student, I agree completely with that. And so they had chips and drinks out, but they also had some student robotics projects on display and some kind of cool stuff. So I immediately was attracted to these people that were out here, and
nerds,
nerds, but the best kind of nerds. I mean, these are my people.
Is there a bad kind of nerd? I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any.
I don't know. Maybe like the Unabomber kind of nerd. That's a bad kind of nerd. Is that even a nerd?
Right. How did you get Unabomber out of that? Unabomber was the Unabomber a nerd? I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know.
No, come on. That's
well.
I don't know what's sitting on your mind there, but if that's the first thing that popped out, the Unabomber.
Yeah, this is like the litmus test of trying to figure out. So, what does Jeff think about? But goodness. So these guys, it was cool because I always thought it would be really interesting to go back to a college campus after having some experience and talking to students, because when I was a student, I had no idea what I was doing, right? And I had no idea what it was like to actually be an engineer, right? And to work in the industry, because you're sheltered from so much of that, because your whole world consists of fellow students and professors are the weirdest. Like, professors are so far from your working engineer that your view of the world is so distorted, right? That you have no concept of what it's like to actually work in the industry. And the thing that I really got a kick out of is that these students were actually interested in talking to me. And so I talked to them, and it's funny because my friend Christoph comes over and he says, "Hey, stop corrupting the the undergraduates." But it was funny. You show them something like the Geiger kit, and they say, "Well, why did you make this? What is this for? Like, why did you do this?" "Well, it's just for fun. I just do this." And it's like, really? And I spent probably an hour talking to these kids, and it was awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed it a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And of course, San Diego is such a beautiful, idyllic environment. Have you been to San Diego before?
I have been, but I only went to SeaWorld. I took a train and the bus. I took a train and then a bus, and it was part of my whirlwind business trip there, and I thought, bugger it, I'll go down to San Diego at SeaWorld. So I didn't get to see much of the city itself, it's only from a bus window, really.
I lived there for about 7 years, and I miss it a lot. I think San Diego is a wonderful place to live, and it's funny, after being there for just a week, it was like, you know what? I want to move back here. It has this very intoxicating kind of effect.
Right. I've heard other people, I think it might have even been Jerry, refer to it as a hole or something like that.
It has a
reputation,
it's funny.
Doesn't it?
It has a lot of reputations of various kinds, and I think most of them are not very kind.
Right.
It was a military town for a long time.
It's a military town, the Pacific Fleet's based there, I believe.
Yes, yeah, and I think that for a long time, military was really the only thing going on there, and there's still evidence of that. Defense contractors, if you drive along the highway, certain stretches, you can see some really interesting facilities that are left over from, 70s and 80s.
Yep.
But San Diego's changed a lot, and it's become a home for a lot of bioengineering and biotech companies. There's a lot of electrical engineering companies and wireless companies. I think there's a considerable amount of technical, industry development being done there. I know quite a few engineers that work in San Diego. And I gotta say, the weather alone it's hard to really talk much about San Diego that's negative just based on the weather.
It's like Sydney, It's a very similar climate.
It's one of the only places I've ever lived where I could go outside in January after midnight without a jacket. I mean, where can you do that? I guess you can do that in Sydney.
Yeah, not a problem.
So maybe I should consider moving to Sydney.
Or further north in Australia.
Yeah.
If you go to the top end of Australia, you're sweating all year round.
That's the thing, and that's like Austin in the winter. It'll be like that, and it'll be pretty warm. But then you pay for it in the summer, and in San Diego you don't pay for it. It's just mild the whole year round. But anyway, enough about me.
well, let's talk about me then, because might be. It turns out, got an email yesterday. I might be in the US in April.
Really?
Yes. So
what for?
I won't say yet. I guess
secret.
No, it's not really a secret. I don't know. It's not firmed up yet, but I think it's a pretty done deal if I decide to take somebody up on their offer and go there for a it's a conference thing. So
cool.
And I'm going, but it's on the West Coast again. I've always been to. That's where I've seen most of the US is on the West Coast, and there's probably I'm sure there's tons of it I still haven't seen, but it's like okay, West Coast again,
many would say it's the best part.
Well, okay, but I never get to the central parts. I've only been to the East Coast once, so it's just the same old. Going back to the US, going back to the West Coast, got to fly into LA again, groan, and it's I don't know. So if you got any good ideas for what I can do over there, because I'd hate to fly, because this thing's only going to be like 2 days or something. You know, it takes me 2 days to get there and back, right? So it's stupid to go there for 2 days, spend 2 days getting there and back, and then only spending 2 days there, right?
Because it takes you a full day to get there.
Yeah,
right?
It does. The flight is 14 hours, plus you get another connecting flight, and by the time you've done that, it's like 18 hours or something, and to and from the airport here. It's an hour's, for me, it's an hour's drive to the airport here in Sydney, I mean, it's... Yeah, so it takes you a full day to actually get there. So if I am going, I might as well, take some extra time and do something. I have no idea what yet. Haven't even thought about it.
Well, if
anyone's got any good ideas?
Yeah, I mean, can you say which part of the West Coast
I'll be up near Seattle. I'll be up in,
wow.
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah,
it's
Washington State.
There are quite a few people in the maker DIY community up there. I think all you've got to do is say, "Hey, will somebody show me around?" And people would come out of the woodwork.
Okay.
I was in Seattle not that long ago, and it's a really interesting place to visit. And if you're there for any length of time at all, you can drive down to Portland too and see Portland.
Yep.
Home of Jerry Ellsworth.
Home of Jerry Ellsworth.
Famous
slogan,
home of
right?
Jerry Ellsworth.
The home of Jerry Ellsworth. Brilliant. Great slogan.
Yeah. And, I have to say, I mean, there's a lot of things to do there. I could put you in touch with a local, and somebody will show you around, I'm sure. It's a beautiful part of the country.
Yep, I've been to Seattle before, so
okay.
I actually enjoyed it thoroughly. It was one of my, even though it sort of was miserable and sort of, in terms of weather, because
you
it's
have
not
to really,
known for its good weather.
You have to embrace that.
Yeah,
because that's really part of their cultural identity.
Yes, that's
I think
right.
The weather.
It's carrying the umbrella,
dreary, grey.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But no, it was nice. It was one of my favourite US cities, that I've been to. Yeah, I'm just groaning because, well, it's always the West Coast. So, groan.
Well, if you ever make it out to Austin, I'll show you around.
Excellent. Texas.
Yes, which is, contrary to popular belief, is a part of the United States.
Oh, really? Why? It's not deemed part of the Why is it not deemed part of the United States?
I think historically Texas has tried to separate itself from the rest of the U.S., and there's definitely some cultural. Right. There's definitely some proud Texans. Since I've moved to Texas, I've learned what it means to be a Texan.
A Texan, to carry your gun around on
That's
your
right,
draw
yeah.
belt. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh boy, scary. So, what do you think of the Obama thing that Chris and I talked about the other week? I know you just got back and what? I just heard of this thing. But he's talking about bringing manufacturing back to the US as part of his State of the Union. Rah, America's going to save manufacturing's going to save America and all that sort of jazz. And incidentally, I saw one of the Super Bowl ads the other night, because the Super Bowl ads are big, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone watches those. Have you seen it? It's
I did. I saw the commercial.
Eastwood. They actually got Clint to love Clint and to do an ad for Chrysler. Bring in jobs back to Detroit. And
that's right. It was an interesting commercial. Yeah, it's like America's been down and we've been hard
and they're
times
playing the
and
heartstrings.
all this. That's right.
And
that commercial was 100% made of heartstrings.
That's
I think. Yeah, and I was watching that little bit of the Super Bowl. I'm not much of a sports fan, but I caught the tail end of the Super Bowl yesterday, and I saw that commercial, and I turned to my wife and just said, "Really?"
Right. Are they forgetting that one of the reasons why Detroit went down the toilet is the American auto manufacturing industry went down the toilet is because the cars were crap quality compared to the Japanese? They don't say anything about that? Our cars are going to be better, but they're just going to be made here. They're still going to be shit, but they'll be made here. I mean, that's one of the reasons the Japanese cars took over, is because they were lower cost, they were better quality, they didn't fail, every 1,000 miles, and just better built. They just had it down pat, whereas America didn't, change any of their manufacturing processes, and they just slapped them together.
Yeah, we made the Dodge Aries K.
Right. Is that a
It's
well-known,
particularly crap car. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And there were a lot of them too. And
Right.
interestingly enough, there's none of them left on the road. You don't see them anywhere.
Yep.
I don't know.
Is that enough to just have stuff made local? I think it's not. You've got to have quality. People
obviously not. Yeah, obviously not.
Yeah.
I
Are
really
they capable
don't.
of doing it? I think they are. I think they'll get it right this time, purely because they will start up the factories from fresh and they'll use new, modern machines and techniques and, manufacturing quality processes and systems and things like that.
I think it's more than that, though. I think you have to have somebody with vision who is going to revitalize that industry.
Who has to drive it.
You basically need the Steve Jobs
intended.
of the auto industry, right? You need somebody that's going to just rewrite the book and is going to be thinking far enough ahead of the curve that they're not just copying what the outside auto manufacturers are making outside of the U.S. You need somebody that's really a visionary, and I think that without that, and I guess you're going to have a boatload of government stimulus also, because you could see that just completely going the wrong direction as well.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just pour money into this and expect that all of a sudden you're going to revitalize an entire industry and make it profitable and whatnot. I don't know. I'm skeptical. I don't know. I think it's going to take the right people dedicating themselves to this, and it's challenging. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
It's a tough challenge.
Well, yeah, fair call. But generally a good thing, though, right?
Well, obviously.
State of the Union, is a big thing. And he spends 5 minutes talking about manufacturing and getting things back to,
Well,
it doesn't make sense getting things made in China. And
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, it's somewhat... So here's the issue. So you've got a lot of things that are being made in China, and for obvious reasons, the cost of labor is trivially small. I mean, you can hire. You have an unlimitedly.
Not so much these days, but it is a lot less. Yeah.
Well, if you're not China, just go to another country, right? Go to somewhere where the cost of labor is even lower, right? And you just keep moving. And the problem is that I think Americans expect a fairly high quality of life, right? And everyone expects that they're going to own a house and they're going to have a car and they're going to have their 2.5 kids and all this. And the problem is that I think our expectations of the price of goods are based on a system which may not work necessarily very well in the U.S.
It is unsustainable,
Yeah, so I
know. The people have to be willing to pay more. That's well, I think we talked about that the other week, and that's
people need to be willing to pay more.
We've been brought up on these expectations of that all these gadgets are giveaway prices, and that is unsustainable. Somebody's losing out in that deal, and whether it's a worker in China or somewhere else, and I don't think they should miss out either. They should get the first world lifestyle as well, because they're them and their family and everything else. And
it's true. But then
you can't just keep moving it to another country. It's just because you'll ruin that country. And
but if that means that you can't have your iPod, then that's a tough one for a lot of people. Is that if they can't afford if they have to put more money into their consumer electronics stuff that they're going to throw away in 2 years.
But the thing is, the iPhone is like $800 or something.
Yeah,
it's massively expensive.
That's true.
People buy these things like that.
Yeah.
Subsidized by the carriers, right? But you're paying for this, okay? And they're massively expensive. And why can't you make that in the US and sell it at the same price? I'm sure you can. You just take a lower margin. It's not like they can't do it. It's not like they'll have to charge more for it if they make it in the US. I think,
well,
these
good luck
real
convincing...
high-tech items, once they get to a certain high-tech, the bleeding-edge level, I think it doesn't really matter where you get it made. It's just an inherently very expensive process. The parts are expensive and...
Yeah, I mean, there's environmental concerns. I mean, you can't just... it's really... You have to consider the whole end-to-end, everything that's involved in the manufacturing process, right? Yeah, it's not just about making the thing. It's where do you put all the crap that's left over when you're done, and how do you treat the workers, and I mean, not to mention that a lot of these companies, the people that own shares in these companies, they don't give a shit, right? I mean,
of course
they
not.
want maximum return on their investment. And if it's cheaper to outsource this into China, then that's a good business decision, right?
No, that's right. And that's all they think about. And
I guess I'm kind of a cynic. I just I just don't know how. I don't know how this is going to work. I mean, yeah, sure, it'd be great to have more manufacturing in the United States, but show me the money, I guess.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to do. Anyway, we'll change topics. I heard, I tweeted this the other week. There was this, I was sitting here using my notebook and all of a sudden, bang! This huge bang. And my wife heard it in the next room, right, halfway across the house. And something on my desk, I'm not sure what, went bang. And then the power failed. It actually tripped the earth leakage circuit breaker, right? So something, mainsy kind of, like some sort of main switch mode power supply, something's failed in there. And it put some current to earth and tripped the breaker. And for the life of me, I don't know what it is because nothing's failed. Like I've got my brand new notebook. It was only like a couple of weeks old. My brand new notebook. I've got my speakers, there's printers, there's hard drives, there's routers and modems and VoIP boxes and all sorts of things, plugged into here, and I have no idea. Everything works. So what do I do? Do I go and take everything apart? Do I go and strip down my new notebook down to the bare board to see if there's
you know what I would do if it was me, I'd go around sniffing around sniffing around and trying to find the one piece of equipment that has that burnt electronics smell.
There is no burnt electronics smell. And I'm quite attuned to that smell over the years. You get quite attuned to it, and there's nothing, but something went bang.
I wonder if it was like a one of those spark discharge devices that is like a surge protector, but maybe something arced over the ground. They don't make
noises, though. They just spark. They just... Well, that's what I thought. It was a surge overload in the power box up the street or something, and,
Yeah.
Something like that. But no, there was a definite... Well...
You don't have any CRTs in your office, do you?
No CRTs.
Because I every once in a while, I used to see like CRTs would go bad, and you'd have a big arc inside the cabinet because they had 10 kV or something on the tube there. Yeah, that's a good one.
I know.
Oh, gosh.
What do I do? I don't know. I'm just going to have to wait until something fails, I guess.
Maybe something has failed, but you just haven't noticed yet.
Yeah, it's exactly. It wasn't critical, It was. It was the.
It was your
noise
smoke
suppression.
detector or something.
Well, it was the noise suppression mains cap or something in there.
Yeah, right.
Just spewing out noise, but it's so it wouldn't pass the emissions requirement. Or something like that. So, yeah, perhaps.
It's funny. I've worked in offices before, and you always like it used to be when people had CRTs on every desk. There used to be these times when I'd be walking around, the cubicle farm, and you'd smell that smell, and you'd know, something bad is happening somewhere.
Something bad is happening.
And I used to be really attuned to it because I think if you work in the lab a lot, this is like your worst enemy is this smell, right?
Yep.
Because it usually means you've done something wrong.
Yep.
And I used to just go sniffing around the lab, and you'd like, oh, is it coming out of the ventilation system? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
And
it's hard.
Yeah, it's scary too because some of these big power electronics can be a fire hazard too. So if something is going to go, you want to be there when it happens, right? You don't want it to happen late at night when no one's in the office.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny, they should train dogs, like the blue smoke detecting dogs, like the drug dogs at the airport. They can train dogs to sniff blue smoke, and they can tell us where our electronics have failed or maybe are going to fail. That'd be
fantastic. Did you know that in the submarine business, the blue smoke is called green steam? There you go.
Why is that?
I have because the submarines used to be all steam. They have lots of steam and stuff in them back in the old days. And I don't know, that was the magic, just the magic steam that made something work was the
green steam.
Green steam, yep.
Wow, if I was working on a nuclear sub, I'd be really scared of the green steam coming out of anything.
Green, Simpson style, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I love it. We've got a shout out. shout-outs on today's show. The Ninja Blocks. Have you heard of these?
I have not.
Oh, you must check it out. It is a Kickstarter project, yes, grown, but it's Australian, and it's Australian-US combo. Marcus from Little Bird Electronics, he's a company here in Australia, and they're teamed up with someone in the US. They've got a friend there, and they've designed these little Ninja Blocks. They are... it's an open source project, of course, and it's designed to connect everyday things to the, grown time, wank word bingo sheets, at the ready, the Internet of Things. But it seems to work quite well. It's, I'm not sure what the processor in it is, but it's like a little block, and it's got all USB attachments, and you hook things up, and there's this online web app where you just actually join. It's like almost like a LabVIEW kind of simplistic, join stuff together. Okay, here's my sensor, and when the sensor, here's the different actions on the sensor. Like if you've got a motion sensor, it'll be, some sort of motion detection. So as soon as motion happens, then you can do one of these other things. You can Facebook, you can tweet, you can send a photo, you can, upload the video to YouTube, you can do anything, So you can sort of join all these social media actions to real-world inputs very easily, sort of drag and drop style, and it's all web-based, and it's a little block. It's a little hardware block.
What would you use this for? Like, what's a good example of a place where this would be useful?
Well, they gave one of the examples I watched in the video, I think, was that they had a security web-based motion sensor. So you put it there, as soon as somebody walks in, it automatically takes an image from the web camera and can tweet it, or can send you an email, or can send you an SMS message, or can do whatever, and it's all built in. Like you don't have to write any code to do any of this. It's just it's all based in a web app which they've written, the Ninja Cloud, they call it.
Wow, that is pretty slick. Huh.
Yeah, you have to watch the video to sort of get an idea of it's like a little brick. It's like a block, Yeah, so I'm not sure what the deal is with the form factor and the little symbol, the little ninja symbol they've got on there, but but it's an interesting thing, and they're going to make them in Australia as well.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, very cool. And they've exceeded their target. They got $44,000 of their $24,000 goal, and there's still a month left.
Wow, congratulations, guys.
Go
That's
check
great.
it out. Yes, Marcus from Little Bird Electronics. Well done. And his cohort in the US. Sorry, I forget his name. But, Ninja Blocks. There you go. So that's the Kickstarter project of the week. Because we always seem to highlight that's where everyone goes. And being based in Australia, you still can't get, you can't put a project on Kickstarter. It's US
really?
So that's why they had to team up with this guy in the US.
Interesting.
Is because, you've got to have a bank account there. You've got to have all your details, and you've got to have a social security number or something, apparently. And I don't know, something like that. So, yeah, it's all too hard. So...
Wow.
Of course, America's the center of the universe, so you would think if you're starting up something like this Kickstarter thing, right? The whole world can contribute money to these projects, but only US people can start them up. It's just retarded. It really is. I don't understand the thinking there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Surely it's... I don't know. I'm sure there's some technical reason for it, but they could have overcome that. There's so many other things that, can get money from anywhere in the world. It's not rocket science these days. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Anyway. So that's the Kickstarter project of the week. Check it out. Ninja Blocks. I rather like it. I groaned at first when I first saw it. And what? Internet of Things, cloud. But, it's not a bad little project. Check out the video. What else have we got? There's apparently Make have a new podcast. And Chris put this on the list. He's buggered off to Hawaii. Didn't bother to put a link to it. So I foolishly Googled Make podcast. And, well, there's 10,000 pages of how to make a podcast. Yet, I don't know. So it's out there somewhere. I don't even know what it's called. I guess it's called The Make Podcast or something. But anyway, there you go.
Make has had a podcast for a long time.
Have they? Well, it's on the list for a shout-out.
Maybe this is one of those items that's been kicking around on the list for, two years.
Yeah.
No, Make has had a podcast for a long time, and it used to be hosted by Bree Pettis.
No, this is hosted by Mark
got it.
Frauenfelder. Sorry.
Frauenfelder.
I'm sure. Frauenfelder.
Yeah.
Sure I pronounce it, yep. And also Steve Hoffer. Hoffer?
I think it's Hofer, but
Hofer.
I don't know. I've met Steve before. I should ask him how he pronounces his last name.
Oh, okay. Right, there you go.
Well, I'm sure it'll be good stuff. I mean, I used to watch the Make podcast
So it sounds
all the time.
new. It's I get the feeling that it is actually new, so in some way. So, yep. I don't know. Check it out if you can find it. Sorry, I couldn't. I'm sure I can with a more stringent Google search, but it was, 2 seconds before the show, and hey, I better check this out, and fail. Well, what can you do? Boy. Speaking of cloud-based development, more wank word bingo, sorry folks. TI, their MSP 430 now has an online web-based compiler, so you can do all your MSP 430 development via the web. You don't need, so you can be sitting there, so you don't have to take your full notebook, Jeff. You see, you can just take your dumbass tablet with your web interface, and you can be sitting in the airport lounge there in the business class, because you're a big business traveller. So you'd be sitting in the business class there, you can be compiling your projects on your online browser. You don't need any app or anything on the machine.
Yeah, except
all your projects all stored in the cloud somewhere.
I hate this. I absolutely hate this, and I hate anything like this. I am so against. This is a load of crap. And seriously, I don't understand why people get so excited about this stuff. I do not want to have an internet connection anytime I need to compile firmware. And besides, if I'm compiling firmware on a little netbook, it's probably not going to have the USB connectivity to my programmer, which I had to have anyway. The software is the easy part. There is no way I'm going to be compiling MSP 430 stuff on my iPad ever. This is a load of crap. I gotta say, I don't understand why people devote so much time to making these things. And it started. I think the first time I really saw this was what was it? It was that ARM-based. What was the name of that platform? So this was several years ago now, 3-4 years ago. One of the ARM companies that was doing ARM architecture did one of those little Arduino compatible dealies, and they had a total web development platform.
Right.
And it basically meant that if they decided they didn't want to do this anymore, you lost your entire compilation environment, right? You were at the mercy of the people that were hosting your whole development environment. I don't know. This stuff drives me absolutely crazy. I just don't understand it.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. There's going to be a couple of people out there who find it cool and useful, but just give me a download and install it on my machine. But I guess the idea is that it's all totally cross-platform, and then it's all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, as you say, you are at the mercy of quite a few people and companies that.
It's just think about trying to support
the
that in the
general.
future.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's
and besides, do you really want to have an internet connection anytime you're doing development? Think of Chris sitting on his beach in Maui, and maybe he wants to compile some MSP 430 code.
Right.
Maybe that's what he feels like. He has a Mai Tai, and he's got his MSP 430 eval board, as you would on the beach in Maui
on your honeymoon. Yeah,
and
Maui.
His Wi-Fi goes down, and now he's up the creek. He can't actually do his product development that he was going to do on his honeymoon. It just doesn't make sense to me.
And I don't know about everyone else, but internet connection is so dodgy I mean, at home here, okay, I've got cable, it works. But if you're talking mobile internet, sucks. Okay, there's end of story. Okay, mobile internet sucks. I don't know how anyone does any serious web anything via a mobile, any sort of mobile connection. It's just, I don't know if it's better in the US. It probably is, but here in Australia, it's
the same here. It's typically pretty pathetic unless you pay a lot of money for somebody to have a nice 3G modem, and even then you have to be in a fairly urban area.
Exactly. Well, yeah, 3G, right? I've got a 3G phone and everything else, right? And it's shit. It's still shit, even though when I've got full bars, right? I've got 5 bars on my phone, full 3G connection signal. Sometimes it's okay, and I can surf a bit. But other times it's just garbage, and it's just random. It'll just drop out randomly. It's just... It's crap. I'm sorry. I don't know how anyone does any serious computing via a mobile connection.
There's...
And that's what a lot of people said. A lot of people, when I moved in the new office and I was having all sorts of problems getting my internet connection, people said, just get a 3G modem.
No
you'll
way.
Be right.
No, it doesn't work. I've tried to deal with 3G connections, and it doesn't work. It's a nice idea. Just try to push any serious amount of data, and typically those connections will just fall flat. They're just
I have a hard enough time tweeting a photo. Like four out of 5 times it doesn't work first go. I've got to go repeat. Oh, it finally got through. I'm tweeting a freaking photo. Give me a break.
Now, there's an interesting piece of news. I don't know if I see this on the list, but the Raspberry Pi...
yes.
Which I know you've talked about on the show before.
I think we have.
The Raspberry Pi, apparently the first batch of boards is due out on February 20th. So that's coming up. And
have they met their, $20 price target?
I don't see any mention of price here.
Yeah, right. Oh, this is just the first early...
Yeah, who knows?
Pre-production batch,
I think it's
hard.
Once
we hit production
it's hard
in China,
to know.
We'll
get
it down to $20. But no, I think the first prototypes were over $100 or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. Economies of scale really play into this a lot, and I'm not sure how many they're building for their prototype run, but their website still very prominently says an ARM GNU Linux box for $25. So,
well, I don't know how confident they can be to meet that or what the volume, because I found. Right, going through my stuff, you talk like through my various kit projects I'm working on, and and I'm looking at like 1,000 volumes and things like that, and you don't save much over 100. Like you're not actually, there's no huge price drop. It's not like it's suddenly when you go from 100 to 1,000, it suddenly halves in price. You get a 10% saving or something.
Yeah,
the volumes have to be. I'm talking, tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 to get the really dramatic, massive price reduction that you think of when you talk of, the volume production China thing.
Yeah.
So it's, so unless they're talking tens of thousands of units, I don't see how they're going to get that price down magically.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's an interesting phenomenon. I think the price savings depends on the component too.
It does. Yeah,
Octopart,
some of them just.
The guys from Octopart gave a talk at the Open Source Hardware Summit last year, and they actually had a graph for each component in the bill of materials for a certain project.
Oh, okay.
It showed what the curve did as a function of price, and I forget what they said. It was something like hundreds or thousands of units was kind of the sweet spot for kind of a small scale design.
Yes, yeah.
But I know that if you're really going, I think if you're building a product and you're still ordering parts from DigiKey or Mauser, you're probably not.
Right.
There's like a whole nother level of price reduction that goes on beyond that. You're still pretty small time.
For generic parts, yes, it's harder for, like, if you've got a specific part and it's like a specific high spec op amp or something like that, then you can't just substitute that with some jelly bean, LM358
that's right.
From,
and there's some
One Hung Low factory.
Some parts that don't go down in price regardless of quantity. Also, I've got a friend who's building synthesizer modules for ham radio, and he was telling me that the most expensive part in his design is something like $20 or $30, and the price is about the same if you order one as you order 100. And so in that case, the manufacturer just doesn't give a crap. They don't care whether you're ordering smaller, larger numbers. And I think this is the kind of deal where you'd have to arrange a specific contract or something with the manufacturer. And even then, it may just be too much of a niche part. They're just not catering to high-volume manufacturing.
I found that totally. I've gone to the manufacturer's website. Okay, what's your price for 10,000 pieces? Well, it's only a couple of cents cheaper than the price for 100. It's like, well, that's no price reduction. And that's
I think they're trying to discourage you.
You've designed it in.
Yeah.
I know. It's
they've
so what?
decided
You're forced to go to the grey market and potentially get, or the surplus chip market and potentially get counterfeit devices or something. And it's just.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are actually surprised by that. People think, you jump to 100 units and your price halves. Well, yes, it can, okay, but they think, you jump to 1,000 and it halves again. No, it just... Unless you've got those jelly bean generic parts which you can get from Alibaba and, something like that, or from the One Hung Lo factory in China, and, it doesn't do it. So... It's not all it's cut out to be. So if you're looking at developing a project, people, be very careful that you're, don't just assume that when you go to 1,000 units, your price is going to plummet to 1/10, because it may not.
Yeah,
you have to do your research.
That's an excellent point. I think that as you're designing a product, you really should be looking at those large volume prices anyway, even if you're just planning on building a couple of them for now. And it's interesting, you'll see weird pricing anomalies too, where the quantity pricing is higher than the single unit, and there's things like that. It's really, it becomes part of the process, I think, for design.
It's a huge part of the
you're designing for manufacturability, but also the economic aspects of volume manufacturing. You have to keep that in mind during the design process.
Absolutely. As I've been going on, because I'm doing a series of videos doing my power supply project. I'm up to 8 videos now of showing the process of how to do it all, and the design for manufacturing. It's all part of it and stuff like that. And it's not easy, folks. It's a big part of the design process.
Yeah, unfortunately,
oh my goodness.
Designing is. Sorry, go ahead.
Our hour's up. Make it snappy.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
Where does the time go?
We got 5 minutes left. Come on. We
this is the AMP 90 minutes.
Extra capacity. Yep. No, please go on.
No,
you had a point.
And I completely forgot what it was now. It's gone. I have no idea. Gosh.
All right. Well, I'll do one last news item. There's going to be a documentary on the 6502. We mentioned this the other week on the show, how they're selling. You can now buy the 6502 chip through Mouser in a DIP 40 package again. Fantastic, right? For those old school people. Apparently someone is doing a doco on it. So check it out. Apparently it's going to take them a couple of years or something. I assume they're going to get Chuck Peedle. Is that the guy who developed the... Yeah,
I believe so, yeah.
Yep, if my history serves me correctly. I assume they're going to interview him. It's the whole how it came about and things like that. So that'll be rather interesting, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Should be some cool stories in there. I'm
really curious who is still using the 6502 and why they still want to use the 6502. If it's not just nostalgia, is it just because it's cool to use this old processor, or
I think
is there something? Is there something it does?
There'd be a few legacy designs. There'd be a few massively legacy designs in the military or something somewhere. Some old bit of gear which, it's just easier to maintain it than it is to redesign it from scratch. So, but it's very niche. I mean,
I saw there was a bunch of discussion in the comments for the last show about the 6502, and guys saying like, "Oh yeah, they never stopped making those. They've been making 6502s all this time." If one of those guys can tell me why I would consider a 6502 for any design I was doing, I'd be really interested to hear the answer to that.
Well, you wouldn't, and I don't think there is a correct answer to that. It's just, the only answer would be nostalgia. That would be it, right?
We could design the Commodore 64,000.
Oh, boy. but then it's not true to the original, right?
Yeah.
You can't just upgrade it. Well, what's the point?
right.
Upgrade it. No, if it's not the original.
I think the C64
Exactly.
used a 6510 anyway. It's not quite the same thing.
That's why we talked about the Micro B computer, the Australian Micro B.
Mm-hmm.
They respun that. A guy started the company back up again in Australia, and he got all the original PCBs that were left over from the original run, and he did a run of kits of the original Micro B computer, which you've probably never heard of, but it's famous here in Australia. One of the very early 1980s vintage personal computers, which was very popular in schools here. But he designed, as well as releasing the same kit, he designed this massive add-on board with a cold fire processor and, all sorts of and it's like, why did you do that? Just release the 65, the kit with the Z80, sorry, it was a Z80 base, just release the pure kit for nostalgia. But he had this, it was marketed as this add-on board was the duck's guts,
Well, I think I said this on the last show that the Micro-B came up, but it's because if you ever go back and use an old computer, they're actually not very good.
No, they're shit. I know.
It's the novelty wears off about 5 minutes into using it. And when you realize that you have to type out a basic program in order to do anything, and you're like,
and you can't save it,
Yeah, and you couldn't save it, and there's no hard drive, and you've got to dig out floppies, and the floppy doesn't work, and you've got to...
Cassette?
Oh, see, I missed the cassette. I missed the cassettes. I was a little bit too young. My first computer had a floppy drive, and I just remember the C64 floppy and those like shotgun noises it would make, or machine gun noises it would make as that's reading the disc, and then you'd have read errors, and you'd have to pull the disc out and blow on it and all this. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, those were like the good old days, quote unquote, right? But
absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody now wants an SD card reader on their
that's
vintage
right, at the
PC
minimum.
and all
that's
this
right.
stuff.
Grown. Well, thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for
joining us,
having me on the show. It's always a pleasure, and I guess I'll be
on
here
next week.
Yeah, I'll be here next week.
Yeah, that's
get
the
a
plan
double dose.
Yeah, we're not sure if Chris said, I might be back. I don't know. It depends on the jet lag.
Yeah.
Geez, you only went to Hawaii, dude. Get over it.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to make sure that he's not on the show next week. So I get to...
Anyway, you'll definitely be here next week. I'll be here next week, I'm assuming. Got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And we both had nothing better to do. You're just gallivanting around the world, and I'm just making silly videos. I mean, what? We don't actually work for a living, do we, Jeff?
Well, yeah, it depends on what you call work.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, boy. Anyway, see you next week.
All right, thanks. Bye.